Which of these men is unsuccessful in life? If you picked the one on the left, your intuition was right. Welcome to the masterclass in face reading. The size of the eyes and their placement affect the perception of openness and honesty. Deep-set small eyes create an impression of secrecy, distrust, and introversion. Evolutionary psychology explains this simply. Larger eyes are easier to read and convey more emotional information. A man with such eyes may be completely honest and open, but others unconsciously perceive him as unreliable. This influences his career, especially in areas where sales, negotiations, and leadership are important. People do not buy from those they instinctively distrust. In communication, people spend the majority of their time looking into the eyes of their interlocutor. This is the main channel for reading emotions and intentions. When the eyes are small or deeply set, this channel works less effectively. Others receive less information, and the brain automatically interprets it as a potential threat or deception. In professional settings, this is particularly problematic for leaders. A team needs to trust its leader, and trust is built on the ability to read a person. If subordinates cannot read the emotions of their leader, anxiety and distrust arise. Jaw shape and size are directly related to testosterone levels during puberty. A well-developed square jaw is a marker of high testosterone. A weak, sloping, narrow jaw represents the opposite. Testosterone shapes personality traits connected to success, including assertiveness, confidence, leadership, and stress resilience. Men with a weak jaw often display passivity, indecision, and a tendency to submit, even in situations where initiative is needed. The problem is not only in how others perceive him. Jaw shape reflects hormonal profiles that influence brain chemistry. Low testosterone is associated with higher cortisol levels, the stress hormone, making a person more anxious and less resilient under pressure. In critical moments requiring risky decisions, such a person is more likely to choose a safe but less promising path. Facial asymmetry is another important marker. All faces are asymmetric, but the degree of asymmetry is significant. Pronounced asymmetry, when one side of the face noticeably differs from the other, can indicate instability in development during the womb or early childhood, caused by stress, infections, or nutrient deficiencies. From an evolutionary perspective, symmetry signals genetic health and stress resilience. Asymmetry often correlates with neurocognitive traits, such as difficulty planning, emotional regulation, and impulsivity. A man may be intelligent and talented, but if his nervous system developed under stress, it will reflect in both his face and his ability to build consistent strategies for success. Studies show that people with symmetrical faces are rated higher in attractiveness, reliability, and competence. In one experiment, participants were shown photographs of job candidates. Those with more symmetrical faces received job offers 30% more often, even when their resumes were identical to candidates with asymmetric faces. Heavy overhanging eyebrows combined with low-set brows can create an impression of gloominess and unapproachability. Facial perception studies show that this configuration is associated with aggression and negative emotions. In social interactions, it creates a barrier. People instinctively avoid contact with those whose faces appear threatening or unfriendly. The result is difficulty building networks, fewer opportunities for collaboration, and isolation, which can trap a person in professional and social dead ends. Experiments on emotion perception show that people with heavy brows are perceived as angrier, even when their face is neutral. This creates a baseline negativity effect where others expect aggression or dissatisfaction, influencing all interactions. In sales, customer service, and HR, this is especially critical. Clients and colleagues prefer to interact with people who appear accessible and friendly. A man with heavy brows must constantly control his expressions, which requires extra energy. A prominent, well-defined chin is associated with determination and willpower. A sloping, receding chin is associated with weakness and lack of resolve. Studies show that people with a strong chin are more likely to become leaders, receive promotions, and be perceived as more competent. This may be unfair, but it is the reality of social perception. A weak chin creates the impression of someone who cannot see things through or withstand pressure. Chin shape is linked to growth hormone and testosterone levels. These same hormones influence the development of the prefrontal cortex, the brain area responsible for willpower, planning, and impulse control. This means the connection between a weak chin and weak will has a neurobiological basis, although it is not absolute. Lip fullness relates to estrogen and testosterone levels and affects perceived emotionality. Very thin, tightly pressed lips create an impression of emotional coldness, stinginess, and a lack of empathy. Success today often depends on emotional intelligence, the ability to understand others, build emotional connections, and motivate. A man with thin lips may have all these qualities, but first impressions work against him. People unconsciously perceive him as cold and distant. Research on negotiations shows that people with fuller lips achieve better deal terms. They are perceived as friendlier and more open to compromise. People with thin lips are seen as tough negotiators, and partners tend to adopt a defensive stance. In teamwork, this is critical. People want to collaborate with those who understand and support them. If your face communicates emotional coldness, you will not gain the support and loyalty necessary for major achievements. Nose shape influences the overall perception of the face. A long, sharp nose, especially with a downward pointing tip, can create an impression of arrogance, superiority, and detachment from reality. This is especially critical in teamwork and social contexts. A person may be modest and friendly, but their face communicates the opposite. The result is difficulty integrating into groups, fewer invitations to collaborate, and being perceived as not one of us. In the history of art, a long nose has traditionally been associated with aristocracy and intellectualism, but also with arrogance. In modern democratic societies, where the image of an approachable, relatable person is valued, this trait tends to work against the individual. In service industries, sales, and politics, this is particularly important. Voters support those they perceive as their own. Clients buy from those they feel are their own. If your face communicates detachment and superiority, you are automatically placed into the category of an outsider. Want to know what your face or your friends' faces reveal about you? Subscribe, comment, face code, and get a full decoding of your strengths and weaknesses.